Okay, this is what it comes down to. Why are Apple users so smug? They've just paid through the nose for a very expensive, albeit very pretty, but very expensive bit of kit. What is it in the Apple mind which really makes people feel so self-satisfied?
It comes back to that branding. Apple spent a long time building up precisely that. They've created, at least in most people's minds, a fairly upmarket and fashionable brand. Now, I'm not saying that may or may not be a good thing, but it's the way it's happened. People know exactly what Apple is and kind of what it stands for, and are happy to take out a MacBook or an iPod or an iPhone anywhere and think to themselves, you know what, this looks good, and I know exactly what I'm dealing with, and I can sport the Apple brand.
It's like getting Jessica Alba to do your sums for you instead of Albert Einstein, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, but there just seems to be, particularly on the, and I know we've touched on this in previous conversations, but with viruses. Now, Apple users are just, oh no, I don't get viruses, I don't need antivirus software. PC users, and it is the big bane of the PC's life, is that because most people use PCs with a Windows operating system, then that's what hackers go for. But don't you sometimes secretly wish for a big Apple virus to spread around the world just to wipe the smug grin off these people's faces?
I do, but for different reasons. People need to be aware of security risks, no matter whether they're Apple users or PC users. And Apple, I think, Apple users could probably be well served by getting something of a fright one of these days, just to realize that they're not immune. It's the only reason their immunity has been so long lasting is simply because people don't take shots at the Apple OS, because it's still a fairly minority used operating system. I was at a dinner recently and somebody said, coined a really interesting phrase, which was just, how can Apple stand up and say they're bulletproof when they've never been shot at?
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to nick that one. Okay, and then finally, coming down to personalities. Our guy, Bill Gates. Yes, okay, bit of a megalomaniac, but he just wants to control all the software in the world. Steve Jobs comes across as a psycho who wants all the software and all the hardware. You think, is that fair?
Yeah, if you're gonna have big dreams, you may as well go all the way. And the other side, of course, is that if you control everything, you know exactly how everything works, and you can make it work perfectly in sync with each other. The hardware can work optimally with the software. You're not worried about separate components and separate bits of software and and IP problems and stuff like that. If you build all the hardware and you build all the software, you can make it all work perfectly with each other.
Yes, unfortunately it means having to subsume your system to that of a megalomaniac living in California, but I take your point on that one. Okay, we've managed to get through this without violence, but no doubt we should be discussing similar matters later on in the season. Until then, we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.